And I think that's a great, and I'll come back to it, but just think about if people that are taking care of people that have dementia and you injure their skin, it takes 24% longer to heal. I mean, so people always ask, how does stress affect that? We're going to do a series of talks, and the series of talks are going to be, how do we think well, move well, and eat well? How do we recover from daily life? Because we're not recovering very well. And even as we come out of COVID, boy, I can't tell you the parents that say, my kids have not recovered in any which way from COVID and that. You think of Wausau East, Rhinelander, and Anago do not have enough players to play football. I mean, we've disengaged. Boys have disengaged from sports way more than girls have disengaged from sports. And so again, it takes longer than that. So we're going to go through that a little bit. I also want you, as you're listening today, I think we get so overwhelmed in that. And so you hear me about a not-to-do list and that. And we have to make room for better behavior. And if we don't make room for better behavior, we're going to continue what we do. And so we add on a crazy life. We add on busyness in that. And so I don't want to think about what foods we should eat, but what foods shouldn't we eat? Because we have to make room for something as far as activities. What should I not do? So if I want to say I want to add 30 minutes of activity, what does that replace? Because do any of us feel like we have too much time? Like everybody feels they have not enough time. But where we spend our time, we have to think about. And so, do we want to spend our time in a kitchen using our creativity to cook a really healthy meal for 40 minutes, or do we want to put something in the microwave? Because it kind of baffles me that people say, I just hate cooking, it takes too much long. But they put a really unhealthy meal in the microwave so they can watch 6 hours of Netflix. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And then we wonder why we don't feel very good. And so what's our not to-do list? And so often we get just overwhelmed. And even as we look at being healthier, we get overwhelmed by it. And so I want us to slow it down a little bit. We have trouble prioritizing. So I think that, Dr. Aaron gave great materials, Dr. Matt gave great materials. Over the next 3 weeks, we're going to try to move it and try to simplify it more and more and saying, where's your starting point? As I talk about emotional health, we know really well what helps our brain. We just don't know the starting point for most people in that, or for dieting, or for engaging. Because do we not have more information on being healthy than we've ever had? I mean, at your fingertips, and yet we are going the wrong way at a pace that's so unbelievable right now. You think that for the first time in the history of mankind, our children are not going to live as long as us. We've never seen that, ever. IQs are actually going down, not up in that. We're under 5% of the total world's population. We take 80% of the world's painkillers. We take 80% of the world's antidepressants, 75% of the world's opiates. Like, something's wrong, and so I want you not to get overwhelmed by what we're talking about today, because I think it's real easy to feel like this. And it's like, where do I start? I just feel horrible. I feel like, but take one thing, one tiny step in that. I just got done, and we'll talk about some of the studies in the International Positive Psychology Conference and that. But it was really saying, start with something really small and celebrate it. And so if you're smoking 20 cigarettes a day and you do 18, it's like really. But what do? We continually talk about not smoking. So when you hear things today, I want you to back off a little bit and say, I just need to be nice to myself as far as it goes. We're going to go a little bit longer on this talk, and so again, we're probably going to go about 10 minutes over, so you know that. But I laughed at this when I saw this. If we're thinking burn calories, I'd be super skinny. Mark Twain says, I lived through many crises I never experienced. We spend so much time thinking about what we shouldn't. And so I thought we'd start with a little humor here in that. You tested positive for being too negative in that. It's funny, and even as I see my patients, and as I kind of from the conference so what we remember is what we lead with. And so last weekend, on Monday, I asked several patients, so how did Brewers do? Some of the patients said they won 2 out of 3. They had their pitching coming back. They're hitting really good. They had a great pitching performance. But some of the patients said they lost 1. So they lead with a lose, or they lead with a win. That's our choice. That's our memory choice. And I hear that all the time. I don't care what I go to. I can have 2 people go to the same wedding. Oh my, it was the most beautiful wedding ever. The bride was gorgeous. Or, the food was a little slow. It was a little hot. We choose, and how we choose makes a massive effect on how our bodies react in that. I also think that we're okay if you start slow. I feel peace, I feel calm, I feel a hole in my sock. Like, we just need to start slow and be okay with it in that. If we can absolutely shut our brain down for at least 5 seconds, we have a massive win. I mean, it's like massively big. But, I just can't meditate. I tried it for 15 minutes. So, like my monkey brain, 15 minutes would be an eternity. Like, if I could get 5 seconds multiple times a day, but it's just cool. I just try it real easy and go with it in that. I think the other thing is it's just pace in that. We've spent $11 billion over the last 10 years, and we're less happy than we were. And so there's no such thing as a pursuit of happiness. There's a pursuit of activities that when I do them, I feel fulfilled, I feel good, but it's different for everybody. Because if I look at her and I say, what would be your most fulfilling thing? And she said, I just love sunsets. And you may say, I love listening to Bach. And you may say, man, when I pet my dog, it makes me feel wonderful. It doesn't matter, but we have to be careful. So there's no such thing as happy. There's moments of joy. When we string enough of them together, we feel good about life. And we start to say, how did the Brewers do? They won 2. They won 2-1 their last game. The pitching performance was on the blue instead of they blew the first game. It was just horrible. We choose. I mean, we have to decide what we want to do as far as that goes. So Dr. Aaron, Dr. Matt talked about recovery physically and mentally and that. So physically, so nutrition-wise and that. So my circle is good. So I have, whatever I do to my body, I have enough recovery time. I'm doing great. So whatever I do, and to speed that recovery time up. So if I'm an athlete and I'm breathing, which is oxidation, so oxidation means I'm taking oxygen, putting it in cells. Those cells rip apart some electrons, and then I need an antioxidant which puts them back together. So if I'm an athlete and we want to recover faster, we're going to want to do something, because the average person, if they're an athlete, should eat 7 to 9 servings of vegetables. If I get an athlete to get 1 in, I mean, when you survey young people, what's the number one vegetable across the country for kids? French fries, yeah, potatoes, absolutely, French fries. So, I mean, that's if you designed a food for an athlete, it'd be the worst one possible. You take the potato and you heat it up, which becomes carcinogenic. You take an oil, which you reheat over and over again, which becomes carcinogenic. I mean, it's like the worst. It's inflammatory beyond as far as it goes. Like, I mean, truly, if anybody's listening to me, if you're playing sports, do not have French fries and go play sports, because if you get a little tap on your head, you're going to have a concussion. Like, it's the worst thing possible. So, again, so next month when we talk on that, just as one of our products of the month is not going to be deeper greens. I think everybody needs to have antioxidants. We can't recover with antioxidants in that. And so again, oxidation is breathing, antioxidants is putting something in. So when we don't recover, we again, then we start to have dysfunction. And that non-recovery can be a lot of things. And so I'm under stress, and I'm taking care of somebody with dementia, and I get a cut. It takes almost 25% longer to heal. It can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be nutritional, all that put together. So I think that's what's so hard, is that patients come in and they hear, I read about this diet and I read about this, and they bring in a big bag of vitamins and they bring in, but they're not really willing to change their behavior. And if we don't, there's nothing from the outside. I mean, why do we take more drugs than the rest of the world? Because we don't want to engage in our behavior. I mean, we don't want to take time. But it's going to be a lot of things as far as it goes. So one of the things I want to talk about emotionally in the conference, the 7th International Positive College Conference, is, so which way is my funnel facing for my health in that? If my funnel is if we think this is a 1 to 10 scale, so 1, 2, 3, this is where serenity takes place. This is where I remember a joy, ability to recover from almost anything, appreciation of beauty, love, kindness, hope, social intelligence, humor. I think of 7 more positive events than 1 negative. And that's a magic ratio. And I want you to think about that. That if we did nothing else from today, and we did 7 positive things, there is no reason for a negative word, ever, 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 ever. There's no research, and you can say, oh, well, you're kind of Pollyanna. We need to complain. No, we don't need to complain. There's nothing good about that. And so if you can not do that, and just stop your words in that. 7 positive thoughts for 1 negative, we thrive. Our body says, Great, there's no saber-tooth tiger around, time to heal, time to live 115 years. Every cell in my body says it's ready to be in a good place. But when I don't do that, so again, I can't, if you go and say you go on a great vacation for 2 weeks and it's just wonderful, but the flight back really is horrible, if you talk about the flight back to everybody, you get no benefit from the vacation at all. If you talk about the vacation, 18 months later, your cells are still dancing and saying, woo, I had a great vacation. Like, you cannot, so think about that. The first 10 people I talk about my vacation, I tell them how bad my vacation, how bad the ride back was, I've just negated everything. When the Brewers win 3 games, which is really cool, but you think, if they won 3 and lost 1, the rest of the year, they win the World Series because they win 4 games to the other teams. They win the World Series. So 2 games out of 1, that's really cool. Like, we should be excited. Like, man, if they can keep this up, they're getting healthier, they're hitting better. So again, what I choose to remember. So if I don't, there's lots of buttons in life, and those buttons start, anything presses them as I go down. So you see, so if I want to have less buttons in life, if I want to not have the outside world affect me, I want to have the inside world, so my cells say, man, this is a great day to be healthy. It's kind of funny because more and more we say, if I'm going to do anything, if I'm happy or I'm going to quit smoking or I'm going to lose 20 pounds, the 7-to-1 ratio crushes smoking and crushes quitting smoking and crushes losing 20 pounds. It's like nothing else is going to make any difference. So if I can put a good diet with it, if I can quit movement with it, it's like massively. So I'm most resilient. I will be my best at someone's worst time. So when the world brings a really bad experience to me, I can recover way, way better. If not, so we take 2 people, exact same incident happens at. So 9/11, we have almost 1 trillion data bytes of 9/11. Some people had post-traumatic growth. They actually their lives got better afterwards. Some people's lives got way, way worse afterwards than that. But it's where they started. So if they were here and something bad happened, they recovered much better. And as we go down the charts, it was a lot harder to recover. So now I'm at 4, 5, 6. I have human responses aren't as bad. I still can do pretty well, but I have more buttons. And that button can be, I come home and one of the kids leave their bike on the driveway, and I just lose it. I just get mad. I mean, really, I shouldn't ask about who they are. Or, one of my kids, get in a car accident, and heaven forbid, you ask how the car is before you ask how they are. Well, if I'm here, I'm much more likely to ask how they are. If I'm here, maybe the car. But when I get to here, I'm going to ask how the car is. No question about it. I have all kinds of buttons out there. I start to have jealousy, anger, humor, my responses. I mean, you look at Facebook, and man, everybody has to be living here because you can't say anything without somebody responding and be mad about it, isn't that? And so if you show a cat video, or you be nice enough to a cat. If you're a dog video, you don't like cats. I mean, it's like anything out there. It's just, but if we live here, that's what's going to happen. 3-to-1, we drop below that. So 7-to-1, we thrive. 5-to-1, we're still doing okay. 3-to-1, when we go below that, think about this number. When you go below 3-to-1, you've just increased the chance of having a divorce by 80%. Like, if you want to have something work well in life, it's that ratio that's massively important. It's not how much a couple argues, it's how much they celebrate that makes the difference between staying together and not staying together. We have to celebrate really well. We have to stay in people's moments as long as possible. And then when we get down to here, this is where hormonal happens. This is where, again, if you're 10 years old and you're having a really bad time and a significant caregiver just does something really bad to you, it takes 17 people around you to say something positive before you'll get back to neutral. And how often do you think that happens to kids when somebody does something horrible and somebody has 17 positive messages? It just doesn't. So, I mean, right now, if you want to have your child go into a facility that will help them with some kind of a mental distress, they're not even taking calls anymore. I mean, it is so unbelievable. The waiting list is so massive out there. We just have to be so careful with it, with our responses and that. The other thing that happens, and I'm just going to blow these up a little bit. So when we start to have below 7-to-1 relationships and that, when we start to get stressed, our relationships get vertical. So when we're at 1, 2, 3, we're actually horizontal. We have compassion, kindness, generosity. So what does a vertical relationship mean? So if your family is horizontal, they're helping each other. They have Christmas. Things are pretty cool. If not horizontal, who got the better present, who was liked as a kid, and so if you look at work environments, as we've gotten stressed, vertical relationships are silos. And everybody thinks about, so this is weism, this is meism. How is it affecting me? When you see environments where all of a sudden everybody is, well, they came in late, they didn't. Like, why do we care if another employee comes in late? Why do we care if they got to wear a top that I don't get to wear? Why do we care they wear sandals and I wear shoes? Like, why would that matter? Like, are you not you? And so somebody gets away with something? Oh, I saw somebody rob the bank, and well, they got away with it. Maybe I should get away with it. Like, why would we even think like that? Why would we think at all like that? So again, when we get to horizontal, that's when we have compassion and kindness. That's when we look at the person to my right and my left and say, how can I make their world better? How can I take care of them? And so it's not just for my emotional health. Every cell in my body, when we look, and you've heard me say it a few times, it's 80 years old now. Harvard did a study. If they took everybody, and it didn't matter what genetic race you were, didn't matter what income you were, it didn't matter what education levels, they put everybody in a pot, and they followed them for 80 years. The only thing that made a difference, cholesterol rates did not make a difference at 30, 40, 50. Blood pressure did not make a difference at 30, 40, 50. The thing that made the greatest difference was just the people around you. So if you had deep relationships in that. So when we look at, if you quit smoking, you increase your life expectancy by 30%. If you exercise, about 30%. If you have 5 really close friends, you increase your life expectancy by 70%. So like it's not hard stuff. Be nice to each other. Be nice to each other, but you have to keep yourself in a good place. If you don't, oh my goodness, we just start to fall apart, so we start to go into the wrong relationships. We start to become a sticky note. Everything sticks to us. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was standing in a line, and a person ahead of me had a little gas, and then the other person, they wore a hat I didn't like, and somebody had a T-shirt. I couldn't believe it. It said, love your children. I mean, it was horrible. Like why? You should love adults and love old people. Like, why would we love children? Like, how would that be? The life starts to stick, and our life starts to about, every word that comes out of our mouth is, what's wrong? Well, look out, there's a black car, and it parked, it's not in the lines very well. I can't believe somebody could park like that. That's my car. That's how I park all the time, and my kids take pictures of my cars, and luckily nothing sticks to me, because I'm like, cool, that's good, at least they're paying attention. And then life becomes, if we're not in a good place. What happened to me and what happened to you, I bring it into happening, and then we're arguing. Then we're off to the races. Because what happened to me and what happened to you comes into the happening, and we bring that into the relationship. And if I'm at 7-1, we're okay. If I'm at 3-1, and this is reversed actually, this is 7-1, this is 3-1, nothing matters there. No matter if I say, I had a bad day at work, or you think you had a bad day at work, we stop being curious. You think, like when we watch the brain of somebody falls in love, their brain fires up in a certain way. When we fall out of love, falls in a certain firing. When we fall back in love, it falls in the same way again. Like, we know that. And it's the 7-1 ratio that makes all the difference in the world. Because if not, so you and I are married, you come home and say, it's so cool. The boss told me that I'm getting a promotion. It's really cool. I'm going to get, this and this and this. And if my first words out of my mouth, we have 3 kids, you're already not home or left, what do you think you're going to take the promotion for? Like, that crushes the relationship. Now, could it be true that timing is everything? So if I'm living here in the 3-1 ratio, boom, I lead there. So happening. I need to keep myself in a good place. Our body is designed around, and Dr. Aaron and Dr. Matt talked about a little bit in that. So we have 2 systems. We have the parasympathetic system, which is heal and repair. The sympathetic system is flight or fight. The sympathetic system will always win. We're always about survival. There's no question about it. So it's like I have a rider and an elephant. And if the elephant gets wild, every cell in my body will not heal. Nothing will happen. Rider and the elephant, parasympathetic. So we should be 80% rider, parasympathetic, 20% sympathetic. What do you think the average person lives in? Exactly opposite. So you cannot heal any cell in your body. Your collagen won't heal. Your heart won't heal. Your liver won't heal when you're living at that. And so what's cool about our bodies? we have millions of extra cells. So when you hear somebody like, wow, your heart was 80% occluded, you still were walking around. Your liver was 80% fatty, and you still were functioning. So I think the hard part is that we can be horrible to our bodies, kill cells for a long time, and then we fall off the waterfall. Because my chronically sick patients lived here instead of here forever. So again, so now they're 80%. Oh. And so when you live 10 or 15 or 20 or 50 years in the wrong reverse, and then you want to be better tomorrow. I mean, nothing is harder. And somebody says, you know what, doc, like, you know, giving up grains is going to be really hard, but you're really sick. Well, yeah. Well, giving up sugars is going to be really. I'll do anything about do something to feel better. Like, it's just sometimes it's like, you know, like, do you think there's any animal in the world that would eat chocolate and get a migraine and then eat chocolate again? Like, nothing. No animal in the world. Rats will take over the world if there's apocalypse because they're so picky with what they eat. They try something, they go away. If they get sick, they never touch it again. They're horribly hard to kill. We as humans, we're pretty easy to kill because we venture to the inside of the store all the time. Dr. Aaron can say 1,000,000 times, stay on the outside of the store, the dark place, it's the bad place in the store is in the middle. And what do? Everybody's in the middle of the store. Like, we can say it 1,000,000 times. Because we live here, we can't control that. So again, danger zone, safety zone, it's where our body. In the safety zone, we'll live 115 years. In the danger zone, we'll live just, we can live just no time at all. Our body is always putting things. So this is where I want to talk a little bit. And again, I'm going to go a little bit over, then I'll stop on that. So genomes is your genes. And so your genes are like a gun. And we all have different guns, and some are more dangerous and some are less dangerous. So we can born that way. But how many bullets we put in the genomes is, because no gun that's empty kills anybody. But if we put bullets in it, it becomes more dangerous, and we put lots of bullets. So I might have epigenetics. So if my descent is American Indian, I have a much higher genome that might say I can become diabetic. But was there diabetes 500 years ago in American Indians? No, none. One of the few tribes down in Arizona that had written language, there was no history of diabetes. That tribe now has the highest rate of diabetes in the world. Is it genetic? No, it's lifestyle. You know, it's lifestyle. We have to understand it's lifestyle, lifestyle, lifestyle. So how are genes expressed? So why can I heal slower if I'm stressed? Because my genes tell me not to heal. They allot resources somewhere else, so they tell me not to heal. They tell me to fight, flight, or freeze in that. So again, I have to understand that. I think, and I always tell everybody, if you ever watch Star Trek, and of course this is my day of Star Trek, so Scotty was the hero all the time, and the body is like that, and it's allotting resources around the need. So what would he say? Stop every system, put everything to phasers. Stop life support? Absolutely, because if the phasers aren't working, it doesn't matter, because we aren't here, we don't need life support. Our bodies will do that too. I do not need my short-term memory in a crisis. I do not need the outside of my. I don't need my liver. I don't need my heart. I don't need anything in a crisis. And if we live in that crisis long enough, because I think Dr. Matt touched on it a little bit, we need to stress our bodies. We've gotten too comfortably physically and not comfortably enough physically. So, you know, the studies out there, you know, it sounds like horrible. Oh my gosh, you're like, you know, taking a cold shower, how could I do that? How could I immerse something in ice? How could I sleep without blankets? How could I be uncomfortable? Well, how's it working? Like, is it pretty comfortable to have a heart attack? Is it pretty comfortable to have arthritis? Is it pretty comfortable to have a chronic disease? Like, is that comfortable? Like, so if we know that we need to stress our body, because nothing heals. So I take my wrist, I put in a cast. Every week in the cast, I lose 1 to 2% of the bone density. So when they talk about, and some people ask, well, is motion? No. So if your wrist is really hurt, this might be enough motion. If it's not too hurt, you just stay on the edge of comfort. Always on the edge of comfort in that. I had a patient come in the other day and said, man, I heard that people with rheumatoid arthritis should exercise. Yeah, get in the pool. Those joints are meant to move. If you hurt and you stop moving, we get worse and worse and worse and worse as far as it goes. So I talked about sympathetic, parasympathetic, where we want to play, short-term, long-term. I'm just going to run through these a little bit. And so now I'm going to talk about some of the things that we need to practice in that. So we need to practice curiosity. We need to stay in our and other people's moments. And so if you and I are talking and all of a sudden she brings up something, do not bring up something else. So if she says, I went to a great restaurant, and I say, tell me why you liked it. Instead of, I went to a great restaurant too. I mean, we do that all the stay in a person's moment. I did a marriage counseling class not so long ago. We had 30 people. I said, just ask somebody 5 questions about whatever they tell you. 5 questions about what they tell you. Multiple people after the class that said, this has been the miracle of my relationship. So when we're young in a relationship, how curious are we with each other? Non-phone people will stay on the phone for an hour with somebody else. I mean, we talk endlessly about things, and then we lose curiosity. Stay curious. Stay in your own moments also, because what we showed in the positive psychology groups is stay in other people's moments as long as possible. Ask them and stay there. Do not go there. We want to practice in the flow is here, staying in people's moments. Yips is here. Cortisol doesn't work very well. Remember, also, cortisol is like a rhino running through the brain. If I'm 5 years old and I fall into water, I might be afraid of the water the rest of my life. Serotonin is a mouse. It takes a lot of positivity to undo negativity. In fact, when we talked about that 1 to 10 scale, 1, you're doing well and you're a mom, and a pack of wolves come, you will sacrifice your life for that child. But when you were 5 years old, you fell in the water and you're terrified of the water, you're at 10 because you fall in the water with your child, you'll hold your child and drown them. Same brain. That's how different, so where we are is everything as far as how my body will repair itself. 7 to 1, when a teacher is positive, there's a 30% improvement in students' behavior. So yelling, all of us have been in a grocery store and you hear somebody, you're yelling at a kid. Well, yeah, they're what you tell them. Positive is so use your words carefully. Are your words healing you or somebody else? If they're not, then why are we using them? Don't use them. It changes everything as far as it goes. We talked about the experiencing and remembering self. When they look at life experiences and they take people in their 70s and they talk to them and they say, did you have a good life or a bad life? And by orally telling them, and we have also our 4 quadrants. People had the best life, people had the worst life. Best life, worst life, by their memory. Now they do a survey on them and they have them fill out all these deaths and income and all this stuff. Do you think there's any difference? No. Same life. That's what you remember in that life. No difference at all when they did it. So again, we have to remember that. B plus do equals have. And man, I can't tell you how hard it is to get the people to work on their B. Because we aren't human doings, we're human beings. And it's the be we bring to the do that makes the have possible. And so I hear all that, well, what can I do more of? What book can I read? No, what's the be? What's the be you're bringing to everything you do? Because that's turning on yourself. And if I don't control the be, it doesn't matter how much doing or having. The difference between wanting to exercise and having to exercise is totally different in that. Oh, I have to exercise. No, wanting to exercise. Coming back, being kind to yourself. I feel peace, I feel calm, I feel a hole in my sock. That's good, that's normal. If you were able to believe in Santa Claus for 8 years, can you believe in yourself for just 5 minutes? Truly believe in yourself. So I do teach classes all over the country. When I ask somebody to do gratitude, what do they write? Well, I have a new car, and I have a new house, and I have a dog I love, but when I say do gratitude of you, about 50% of the room will start crying within 5 minutes. We're glad for what we have, but not for who we are. And man, if you aren't happy for who you are, every cell in your body is screaming and not healing. All day long, all day long, all day long. I have millions and millions of heart cells. I have millions of lung cells. I have millions of liver cells. I have to have 80% failure before that happens. That's a lot of not liking yourself. We have to be good about that. Savor moments of joy. These are the things we do. Couples that can celebrate, be positive, 7 to 1 ratios, do really well. Micro breaks, tiny micro breaks, and stay in them. When you do something kind, like hold a door, we don't have to do, I think sometimes we think, well, if I don't do something that changes the world, I have to be like a Gandhi kind of person. I just hold a door for somebody. That's absolutely, then we have to be happy about holding a door for somebody. We have to savor those micro moments as much as possible. Find something that makes you happy and think about it a lot. We are just so hard about it. I can't tell you in my life how many times I went to things, teaching chiropractors and that. chiropractor just badgers me the whole time, asking me these questions. Just people don't comply. People won't do exercise. People just super negative. He's failing. Then a chiropractor asks me if I want to go out to eat. Brings his whole family, super positive. And I can't tell you how many times, I don't know if it's just a God thing, chiropractor's on this corner, chiropractor that hates life is on this corner. Nobody sees him, everybody sees him. Like, really? Like, really? I mean, so again, you have to stay in those moments as long as you can. Your notice moments, your points of notice in that. I'd use this a little bit if you can see it better when I have it on a bigger screen. So my eyes see green. My colon, so green's my favorite color. So when I look at this, I see green. But also, if I look for moments of positive, what else? What when you train yourself to see what you should see? There's somebody holding a baby right here. There's a mom helping a little child right here and that. There's a child by mom going as far as it goes there and that. There's pictures all over of people that are with each other and helping each other. And most people won't see that. It's kind of like if you've ever done that thing where they tell you, count how many times the ball goes back and forth, and then a bear dances through the picture, and nobody sees the bear because they're so focused on the counting. And it happens all the time. I'm really glad I saw the bear the first time, so before I did saw it, so I think I've done a good job of trying to see what's right more than what's wrong. And that, put down your phone. I can't stress it enough. Your brain needs to relax. It needs to have downtime. It needs to not put down your phone. Nothing's more condescending than the person next to you. Even when your phone's up and it lights up and you look at it, put your phone away and put it down. It's not helped anybody be positive as far as it goes. There's what they call mirror neurons. I think this has been the greatest travesty of the mask. When I look at you, you look at me, our brains absolutely light up. We're looking at each other. We're looking for a smile, an eyebrow, a little thing. There's nothing more important. And when we have kids from 0 to 12 not practicing mirror neurons, it's devastating. And so why do we, when we're not with people, why do we die 70% more often? Because the mirror neurons are that powerful. So when I feel comfortable, my body relaxes and I'm filled with serotonin. When I feel uncomfortable, my body rushes with cortisol. Because I don't know if you have a gun or not. I'm looking at your face. But 90% of the time, faces relax when they see each other. We're okay. But with a mask on, do we get a chance to see those? No, we don't. I mean, we have devastated the brains of kids because there's only a window of time. So, we have a vet in the crowd. What do we say, even during COVID? Socialize your pet. But we put yellow tape around playgrounds. Like, God, really? Like, really? Why power, not willpower? Why do I want to? It can't be a have to ever. It's a why. Why do I want to be nice? Why do I want my kids to have a really good life? Why do I want my neighbor to be happy? Why do I want? Because that happy, that niceness might change. That might be the difference when I smile at somebody, that they move above 7, and now when they go home and their kid's having a bad day, they don't smack them in the head. I don't know. I mean, where I move somebody just a little bit, what the difference can be on that. There is no medicine like hope, no incentive so great, and no tonic as powerful as the expectation of something tomorrow. We just want to be hope peddlers all the time. I went a little bit long. I thank you for your time. If you can do one thing, stay in your moment, stay in somebody else's moment. Every cell in your body. If I can't tell you how many people bring in amazing things, stimulizers and medications and vitamins and stuff. But if you're an unhappy person, it's not going to matter. 70% longer life by being happy with your relationships than not being happy. 70%. So the thing is, smoking, like what do we hear about smoking cessation programs? Don't we need happy enhancement programs? I mean, what are we not doing so we can do it? So stop, 7 to 1. If your words aren't healing you or helping someone around you, there's no need to say them. When you go to a restaurant, if you have bad experience, talk about what was good. But do not lead with what was wrong, because that's a remembering self, and you will have a life that's 70% less productive than people that see what's right in it and that. So pretend. Your eyes like green, look for green. Your eyes like happiness, look for happiness. We have to look for it because inherently we're meant, the world is crazy right now because we default to non-happiness. We have to work on happiness. So Thank you very much. This is the first of 3 series like this. We're going to talk more and more about the movement, the eating, and that. I also want to let you know, we're going to do a series. The Past Psychology Conference was so great in that. And if I can get 20 people online or in person, I'm going to do just a 3-part series on happiness and how it affects your body and what the research said out there. Angela Duckworth, which is just my favorite person in the whole world in that, just talked about we have to come up with a plan for ourselves and a starting point in that. So we're going to do a 3-part series in that, separate from these talks. If you're interested, let Angel know. She'll get you on that. We probably will start in September, October sometime, but we'll do a 3-part series. I'd love to have 10 people in a room that we can do it for, and if there's 100 people online, that'd be cool too. But again, we're doing a 10-part series. We're going to go in a lot more detail than what we talked tonight. So thank you, and in 3 weeks we'll be again. We have a drawing quick, so. Yeah. Okay. Drum roll, Ed Hack. And then we're going to do the one more. Okay. So this, if you forward our message, if you talk to somebody, and please forward this message. I mean, there's times we've had over 5,000 people that have watched this program, so we'd love to have you do that. The world needs it in that. So Christy Fink. You will be getting a call from Angel, and you'll be getting a choice of multiple prizes in that. And then I think if somebody wants to from this, and we'll draw it out, but there's 2 nutritional consultations for 30 minutes. We'll also, the values and action character strengths, we'll do one of those also for 30 minutes in that. So again, we'll draw some other people out, and we'll do that also. So thanks for participating. Please share it with as many people as you can. Thank you.